Okay, hello everybody. I hope you can hear me. I think it's time. I don't think anyone else is coming. So yeah, can you maybe let me know in chat if everything is okay, if I'm not too loud or not too silent. I'm pretty new at this streaming thing, you know? Okay. Zero reaction. Um, yeah, I guess I can just slowly begin then, eh? Yeah. Hi then. So welcome. My name's Adam. I try to go by DKNS design online. Pretty loud on phone. I can maybe do it a bit quieter if it's something you need. Right. So yeah. I'm by no means an expert. I guess I've been with InstaMAT. I've been using InstaMAT for about a year, I guess, when it came out of open access, early access. And yeah, so I know a bit, but as a 3D artist, I'm a fairly new user overall. So I guess what I want to do now is maybe show you what we'll be working on, and of course, maybe just share some of the notes I've sort of took over over the past few months, like trying to figure out stuff. Hey Dan. Um, I guess yeah, I guess we are going to start in Blender. Just to show you a little bit how I prepared my mesh, because the mesh was pretty messy. In fact, it was like a speed modeling thing. I did it in 2 hours, something like that. It wasn't really polished in any way, and it took me quite a bit to figure out how to prepare it so that I would get rid of most of the artifacts that came out in baking in Instamat, because I tried to do it in Substance as well, and I got a little less of the same stuff, but I feel like it's worth it for the bakery in Instamat, right? Like you if you polish your mesh, that you will get some pretty good results really fast because of the GPU baker. So that's that. It's really quiet though. Yeah, I don't know, guys. Like I guess you will have to sort of make do, right? I have it sort of in yeah, I have it in the middle of the slider. I don't know. Yeah, it's in the greens. I don't think I can go any louder than that. I try to speak clearly. All right. What was I going to do? Oh yeah. So first of all, what are we going to do? Yeah. So let me just show PureRef, which is a cute little software where you can, of course, I think most people know it, right? But you can basically store images for reference there. I collected some of it on Pinterest and stuff. So basically, I went to a gallery last year, and it was about like socialist era kind of architecture in the Czech Republic, which is where I'm from anyway. And I took there were these like photos of little models. I think they made it out of plastics. It's by all right, good Dan. Um, yeah, I put it a bit like I put it like 5 decibels louder. I don't know. Uh, Let me just do this. That should be fine then. Anyhow, I was saying yes. So this is by these little models were made in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, by a group of architects. Um, they call themselves the CL School. CL stands for let me translate it, Association of Engineers and Architects in the city of Liberec, which is in the north of the Czech Republic. And they were these like late modernist architects, right? And they made all sorts of like futuristic industrial buildings. And in fact, you may know them for buildings such as this one, Ještěd, which is a beautiful, beautiful tower, or a shopping mall in Liberec, which is this like beautiful structuralist kind of architecture. And I really love the aesthetic, and I thought it would be an easy task, right? An easy exercise. So I took the models and I sort of interpreted them in 3D. Yeah, so that's what we are working on. In fact, I made this is the one we are going to be working on, of course, the tower. I also made some of the other ones here. So yeah, this is my reference for the materials later and all that. This is a tower that's actually very close to where I live, by the same architect, Hubáček. I love his stuff. So this is just for reference to see what materials we are going to be sort of making, right? All right, let's jump into Blender. Right. So I hope you can see. So yeah, the mesh is sort of mid poly to high poly, and there are a lot of problems, right? Like you can see that there are a lot of n-gons. It's not even. All of that. Like you should definitely make your meshes even, and you should make them pretty dense for baking. Otherwise, you will just get weird artifacts on, especially on the AO pass, and sometimes even the mesh ID pass. Normals will be messed up, so you probably have to like go back and forth a couple of times. I know this might be a bit basic for someone who uses any sort of baker every day, but for me that was actually quite a problem because I had not intended to bake this originally, and I didn't care about topology, right, at all. But then, as I started baking, I had to keep adding like various edges and tweaking a lot of the normal stuff. I actually had to do a couple of normal transfers because of like different pinching I was getting here, right? And the baker will definitely show that, yeah. And the higher you go in resolution, and even if you blur your AO and stuff, you will get these artifacts, and they will show. They will show in your curvature maps. They will show in your AO bakes. So you definitely want to take care of that. The same goes for unwrap, right? I actually unwrapped this mesh in Rhizome or Rhizome UV. I cannot show you this right now, but it's a UDIM project, meaning we have like 10 tiles of UV maps, and you really have to be careful about overlaps, symmetries, all of that, stacking. I had on another model, I had a lot of problems with stacking. Apparently, the InstaMAT Baker doesn't do that well with them. They will be like triangulation artifacts showing, stuff like that. So again, you have to take care of that in advance. In fact, that's a bit of a problem because as I said, I have a different project, a spaceship, and that's almost 20 UDIMs at I think 10 pixel density per centimeter, and that's a lot, right? And it's almost at a point where you can't really work on that because of the sheer size of the file, right? And so I stacked everything up, and I got this crazy amount of artifacts that just wouldn't go away, and so I had to unstack everything, and it took me a day, right? Like you can get into pretty bad spots doing that. So definitely take care of your mesh, right? Now, before you export anything, you definitely want to triangulate it in Blender, right? Because every application has a slightly different triangulation algorithm, or the way it reads the mesh is different. I'm not much of a technical artist, so I wouldn't know how to tell you the details, but definitely apply your bevels and your triangulations and your normals and all of that before you export from Blender. Now, InstaMAT works with Y up, so you have to adjust for that. If you export an FBX, that's going to be fine, right? If you go for that, because it will have Y up. But if you want to do a USD export in Blender, then you should check this little button. Where is it? Convert orientation. Yeah. So here it will say up axis Y, and that's fine, right? Like it will work. So for USD, you have to check this button. That's all of it, right? All right. I actually left in 2 artifacts. One I didn't notice, one I did on purpose. I don't know if it shows on stream, but on the left screen right here, maybe let me use a different matcap. Yeah, this one. I don't know if it's going to show. Not really. Get them in. Yeah. Sorry. I guess I'll try to zoom in a little more. Um, but yeah, you can you see the pinching here, like around the corners? That typically happens on curved surfaces because of the triangulation and other stuff. Basically, it's no longer a flat surface, right, with the bevel. And so one way to fix this is to use some sort of reprojecting, like I did on my big barrel here, on my big cylinder. But here I thought, it doesn't matter, right? Like it's not going to be visible. Like you can see it a little bit when you bake the curvature. There will be an artifact, right? And it will show in some sort of masks, but it's such a small detail that you can get away with it, of course. Um, Again, like it depends on what you're going for. If this was for like a close-up photo of this detail, then you definitely have to take care of that. But I think my renders will be something like this, right? Like so no one's going to see that, and it's going to be covered up in all sorts of like noise and displacement, normal bumps and all that. So no problem there. That's one artifact. Another artifact, and this is something you won't see here. I actually messed up the unwrap, and this face right here, which actually has a bit of a weird shading here too. Uh, yeah, this inside face here, it's not unwrapped. In fact, I tried to optimize a little bit, and this whole section, if I use the X-ray, this whole section is not unwrapped. I basically just left it there unwrapped, and it will show as a black tile in the bake, right? So you have to think about this in advance, like what's going to be visible, what's not. Can I somehow optimize it, in unwrapping? Maybe you could like add an edge here and just unwrap this tiny little part of the wall, and the rest can go on. Or you can just, straight away delete it if you're going for some, I don't know, let's say game optimized mesh. You can just delete it and, lower the polygon count. Again, as I said, like this was just for fun and exercise, and I didn't really care about topology, so I just didn't take care of it, and then I forgot to delete it, and it's a lot of mistakes. But these mistakes happen all the time. At least they happen to me, anyway, as someone who's not that experienced and had to figure out a lot of stuff, over time. Anyhow, so that's how we would prepare the mesh, right? You just export it. I recommend using FBX. The Blender USD is a bit funny right now, so I wouldn't really use it that much. I had some trouble with it. It doesn't really export all the attributes correctly. The naming conventions are a bit messed. At least the UV in 4.2, the UVs are correctly named. They are called ST, which is the norm for USD, not UV map as is standard in Blender, but still you don't want to use USD at the moment, I think. At least I haven't had much luck with it. So FBX is the way to go, in my opinion, for the time being. Anyway. Alright, so I guess I'll pause, take a break right now. If there's anything you'd like to ask, or add or correct, that would be nice, and then we can jump straight into InstaMAT and start working on some baking. Alright, I guess if there are no questions with the 4 people we have here, I guess I'll just continue. So, well, yeah, where do we even begin, right? I guess, oh, thanks, Dan. If you, I think it's overall the models are nice because Ubacek or the architects made them, and they just had this amazing sense of geometry and overall like spatial design. It's just amazing, and when I started modeling it, I thought it's just a Yeah, I actually, yeah, Mr. Player. This time I don't have a low poly, right? I did it for the spaceship. I can show it later a little bit. I had a high poly and a low poly. As I said, this was just an exercise, this sort of a speed modeling, if you will, exercise, and so it's sort of a mid poly that's going to bake itself, but it works, right? You don't have to necessarily have a high poly, low poly kind of bake if you're just going for a render, of course. If it's a game ready model, you absolutely have to have, or almost always have to have a low poly and high poly, or even some LODs, levels of detail, of course. In this case, it's just a personal project, so I don't have any low poly, high poly. Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, as I started modeling the tower, I realized that it's actually a microphone, right? Yeah, you don't need it. You don't need it. Like you don't need it in Substance Painter either, right? Like you can just take a model and bake the mesh map, so there will be no normal transfer, right? Like you will not bake the models, sorry, the normals. You will only have the world normals, and then you can just use that and use all sorts of like normal stamps and paint your displacement on your mesh and all that. I'll show that later, and it will work just fine. Uh, and then you just export the result, or you can even do this workflow where you like continuously keep baking in your results as you go, right? Like let's say I change some normal information on my model, I can bake it in, and then it will read for the AO and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily need a high poly. Of course, as I said, like your mesh has to be dense enough so that it catches in the bake, right? What I mean by that, if I turn on the wireframe, which I always forget where it is because that's not something I need very often. How do we turn on the wireframe overlay, right? So you see like my mesh is quite uneven. For example, here around the top part where the text is. Um, it's based on vertex normals or vertex normals, and it shoots rays, right? It shoots like virtual virtual rays, and if it doesn't hit anything, it doesn't register. And so if you have like a really dense mesh and really like not dense at all, what's the opposite of dense? um, and not a dense mesh, you can get some weird artifacts. In this case, I got a pretty good bake. But I also had other instances where I just couldn't get a good bake because there wasn't enough information, and it started like I had a very long line, and it was just one triangle, right? And so it stretched. So again, like you want to divide it at the very least, right? You need to think about it, like where do you want the the algorithm to register your rays, your hits, yeah? Again, I don't know the details, but I imagine there is some sort of interpolation going on where you basically say like, yeah, I hit a ray here, or maybe in the middle of the face if that's how it works, and it just like says, okay, so maybe there is a gradient or something, but you need to have a dense enough mesh to detect the hits. I hope my amateur kind of common sense explanation makes sense. All right, so if there are no other questions, I guess we can start. So yeah, let's begin in the package, right? So what we would do is to create a new package. I'm not gonna save this one. And you'll get greeted by this, right? A cube, or maybe canvas. I don't know. It doesn't matter, right? Let's name the package. I don't know. Stream Tawa. And then we have to create a new project. Projects are like subfolders for your stuff. Of course, we will want to work with layering, but we are also going to work with element graph. Element graph is basically where you like create all your brushes, your stamps, your materials, pretty much everything else you need to finish your model. All right, so layering. Now it will give you this dialog. Let's just call it stream Tava. The category you don't really have to change at all. It doesn't even allow you, or it does allow you. But you can create your custom categories. Um, InstaMAT has this fairly robust semantic categorization, but I have also ran into some difficulties with it. So I just leave it as it is. Now, if you work with a Udemy project, which I am, you definitely have to use Udemy. Otherwise, it will not work at all. Yeah. So a multi-material is your usual UV one tile of UV-based kind of layering, just like in Substance Painter. This multi-material unified, I haven't used that yet. It's sort of like something, I think it's something between Udemy and multi-material in a sense. It puts, if you have different materials in your project from Blender, let's say you've created 3-4 materials, assign it to the mesh, you import it, it remembers that, of course. And so you can actually use this unified to paint across all 4 of the materials. So for example, if you want to have a layer of dirt that covers all your different materials, you can do that in multi-material unified. That's my understanding, right? But in my case, it's Udemy. I have only one material. In fact, I haven't created any materials. I'm going to be making all of it from scratch, right? Now, we can also start baking right away. If you click this, right, bake mesh open creation, and you select your mesh. So yeah, let's select our mesh. Package resources, when you have already imported your mesh into the package, which you can do by dragging it over from your folder, or you can just take a local file from your PC, right? So it's this one. I just don't remember which one I had. It's probably this one. Yeah, it loaded it, and now we can create project without template. It loads the preview. All is well and good. Yeah. So we just click project without template. Now it's going to try to load something, and if you clicked, to bake upon creation, it will open the baking window. Now, so I know that I am going to have a hard surface kind of model. So again, like I know that I'm going to be needing AO, right? And so here we have the basic channels that are going to be actually exported once you click the export button. Once you're finished with your whole project, yeah, you just get these channels, these textures, right? We'll get to that maybe not this time, but maybe next stream if I get the chance, I'll go through it again. Anyway, so there is no AO right now, and I don't know why, but for some reason by default there is no AO. So all we have to do is add the channel. You can choose a couple of them. For example, if you're going to be working with emissive, like your incandescence or stuff like that, you can create an emissive channel, etc., etc. I'm just going to click ambient occlusion. Again, you can set your color depth. You can set your color management here. It's all good, right? Like it knows what it's doing. It's pretty smart that way. Yeah. For Blender, you're gonna want to use OpenGL or Blender preset. Don't use DirectX, right? That's for Unreal Engine, stuff like that. There is just a different ways of handling the normals. The green channel is inverted. Yeah, you can of course fix that in Blender too, but like if you're using Blender, just use OpenGL. It's the basic, right? It's the standard. All right, now. So the mesh baking window was fairly intimidating at first. Even coming in from Painter, I was a bit confused at first as to what to do with it, but it's actually fairly simple. Did I delete my roughness? Oh shit! Oh yeah. All right, so let's create a roughness channel again. Whoops. Thank you. So yeah, the baking, right? So the target mesh, that's your low poly. If you're working high and low, right? Like that's your low poly. This is what the information is going to be baked on. Now, your high poly, if you're working with that, doesn't have to have UVs, right? But your low poly has to have UVs because that's the paper upon which you are going to project the information, right? If that makes sense, if that metaphor makes sense. Basically, you've cut up your mesh to turn it into like a sheet of paper, and that's the UVs, and the UVs need to be there so that the baker knows how to project the baked information onto that flat surface. All right. Now your source mesh, that's going to be your high poly or whatever you want, to take the information from. In this case, since we are not baking high poly to low poly, we don't need to put in anything. It will just use the target mesh as its own source, right? Now, baking engine CPU is pretty good. I had good results with it, actually better results. In general, I would say it gives more precise results, maybe. I don't know if that's true, but it makes sense since GPU is, of course, fast and there are a lot of parallel processes at the same time, but that may lead to indeterministic results. But you will sit here for a while if you bake with CPU, right? Like especially with UDIM projects, like I have 10 UDIMs in this project, but I also had the spaceship with 20 UDIMs, and that took half an hour or maybe longer on my 360, on my, what's it called, 5600 CPU, what's it called, the AMD, it's just like a mid-level CPU, nothing too big. And I definitely sat here for a while when I baked at 4K, and the super sampling was set to 4, if I'm not mistaken. I baked ambient occlusion, curvature, mesh ID, normals, and position, so that's like 100 maps for you, right? And you will sit a long time waiting, right? On the other hand, the GPU is super fast, super nice, and you will get good results, right? You will definitely get good results. So we're definitely using GPU. Now, resolution, that's self-explanatory, hopefully. Usually I do my test bakes at the 1K. It might be like too low, but it will already start showing the artifacts without creating too many new ones just because of the low res. So for now, I'm going to leave it at 1K. Now, super sampling, or in other words, anti-aliasing, it's basically it will like render the images or the textures X times larger and then downsample it, which leads to like getting rid of some of the jagged lines, jagged edges, right? Like I'm pretty sure people are familiar with anti-aliasing. But what's worth mentioning is that this really increases processing time. It does, right? And it eats up GPU memory quite quickly as well, right? So my GPU is 3060 Ti, so it only has like 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I actually don't have that much like wiggle room for baking. So, but super sampling at 2 or even 4 is more than enough usually. I know Substance Painter has a larger, like a you can choose larger super sampling, but I don't think it's necessary really. I think 8 is more than enough for pretty much anything you're doing, right? Like you don't need to have like super smooth results on your AO or anything. It actually is worse in my opinion. It might be an artistic choice, but if your AO has a bit of noise in it, a bit of like speckle, it gives it that like material look, right? And I like that. Personally, I like that. Anyhow, so let's leave it at that for now. Store result in package. Basically, it will save the textures and your meshes and and that what you get for baking into the package. The package meaning this imt.imt file, and it can go pretty high. I think my spaceship file has 1 gigabyte, right? Like it's 1 gigabyte large because it has all the UDIM textures for all the channels. It has all the other information that you have or the projects that you have in that package. So think about what you need and what you don't need to save in the package. You can of course just reference external sources. It's no problem, right? You can specify your naming convention. It's not that important to me anyway as a personal project. You can choose which format to use for your images. I think PNG for working purposes is fine. Of course, on export you can use EXRs, whatever you need. Yeah, but for this, like the PNG will be enough. All right, now I guess I can take a break again, get some coffee a little bit, and if there are any questions, corrections, additions, please ask them in the chat. So Dan, did I say something wrong? Did I mislead about something? All right, no one's here anyway. All right, let's keep going. Now, so targeting mode. You have two choices: all sources and by mesh name. By mesh name, if we click on that, that's definitely useful for your low and high poly meshes, right? Um, be careful about this. First of all, it's a suffix, right? So it has to come at the end of your naming. For example, I closed Blender, but I can't show you now. But at the end of like every mesh part will need to have this suffix for the baker to recognize it, right? So you can call it whatever. You can call it LP, HP. A lot of people use that. I think that's naming convention in Maya maybe. Either way. You can name this whatever, and then it will only shoot arrays. Oh, okay. I should maybe explain how baking works a little bit. Essentially, what it does, it sort of inflates your mesh, right? Like let's say I have a sphere. It's going to sort of inflate it a little bit virtually, and then it's going to shoot the rays in the normal direction, in the opposite normal direction, in fact, like inside, right? So I'll actually show it in a while, in a bit. Yeah, so that's how baking works. Now it's sort of going to create like like a bounding box, right? And from that it's going to shoot inside. Now the question is, do you want the information to be taken from all of these boxes combined, or do you want to have only the sphere that's going to be targeted by its bounding sphere in this case, or do you want this mesh, this sort of, I don't know what it is, this metal piece here on top? Do you want it to be to shoot the rays at other meshes too, or just at itself? Right, that's the main difference between all source meshes and by mesh name. In this case, since I don't have low and high, I'm just going to use the source meshes, right? All source meshes. Now, ignore backfaces. Yeah, we are going to talk about the array length in a bit. The ignore backfaces, I always turn it on. I guess there are specific cases where you don't want that. I can't think of anything. Even in game-ready models nowadays, either you like delete the backfaces, or you just want them baked in for AO purposes and all that. Maybe it helps to eliminate some artifacts. I didn't see any noticeable result on my bakes at all, so I just leave it on. That's fine, right? Average normals. I didn't get much of a difference on this. Essentially, it's going to try to interpolate the normals a little bit based on the mesh, right? But since I already used a lot of like normals optimization in Blender, I don't really see any difference. And in fact, it's actually messing up my custom normals a little bit. So I turned it off. Yeah. Now, dilation in pixels. I don't know if you know what dilation is. Essentially, this is to sort of prevent artifacts that come from the software reading UVs. yeah, the UV islands can get a bit distorted somehow, right? And so this is sort of it extends the mm, the texture, the bake texture, by a certain number of pixels, like outwards from the island, right? Maybe I can show. Maybe I can just Google an image of pixel dilation in baking. Let's see if I can find something. Um, Not really. Yeah, sorry, I should have prepared for that, but it will create, like, it will look weird. Your texture will look weird. It will look as if there are a lot of baking artifacts, but in fact they are not. It's to prevent some overlapping, or rather some missing information um, in the bake, right? Because it will extend the pixels and it's going to try to maintain the color and the information. And so if the UV island gets a bit distorted, it will correct for that. You should always think about your texel density and your resolution. So if we are going to be baking at 4K resolution, I think the convention is that you're going to need to have some like some borders. I think it's 16 pixels or maybe 12 pixels, and you will need 32 pixels sort of margin between the islands. So you can, of course, adjust this for your resolution and your texture density. So again, like I hardly ever change this. If I get some noticeable problems there really isn't like much need to change it. But if you get some result that's really obviously wrong because of some missing information, you can increase the dilation and it will hopefully fix that. Okay, cage mesh suffix. You can also create cage meshes. Again, that might be a tutorial on its own. Basically, you create a custom bounding box for your mesh. So let's say I have some really complicated geometry. I don't really have complicated geometry here. But yeah, for example, this, right? I don't know if you can see it, but here, if we, there is a chance that as the mesh gets sort of inflated, it will run into itself, right? The bounding box will touch these parts, and it will create artifacts because it will not know which way to shoot the rays, and it will sort of hit the other mesh, other part of the mesh before it hits the desired vertex. So you can create custom cage meshes. You would do that in Blender. You would basically take the mesh, inflate it yourself, and then maybe push some faces around so that they are not intersecting. And then you can name it with another suffix, and it will InstaMAT will recognize that, and you can use that to really optimize your bakes. You will get much better results, but it takes a lot of work, especially on a mesh like this, which has, I don't know, maybe 100 parts, right? To do that for every single one of them, especially for the complex ones, where it actually is more likely to happen, takes a lot of time. So I haven't done any of that, but the option is there. It's a robust baker. It will do just fine. If you don't, like, you can leave it as is, right? The only thing it will do is going to give you a warning. Even though there is a cage suffix, I haven't noticed any of that, so just skipping that, right? But you can also just turn it off, delete it, right? And no problem there. All right. Now, the actual options that we need are hidden here in these tabs. The most important one, I think, is the AO, right? That's the most sensitive one, the most artistic one as well. It will be the basis for all your dirt maps and grunge maps and all your generators and stuff like that. So you definitely want to sort of nail it down. In my experience, at least with these models, these settings are really high. You will get a lot of overlapping, a lot of that. And maybe, in fact, I should just like hit a bake for now. Let me just turn everything else off. Yeah. And let's bake. Yeah, see, it's just told me that disabling normal mesh tangent or map tangent space because we are not baking any high to low poly. Meaning it doesn't know where to grab the tangent information from. So it just skips that, right? And since I deleted the cage suffix, it doesn't give me the warning, but it would have given you the warning as well. But it's no problem. Now, C, the letter C on keyboard will roll through the channels. Right now, we can't preview curvature and stuff like that yet. I hear that's in the works. But this is our bake, right? This is our AO bake. It's pretty good. Nothing to sneer at. Nothing to be excited about. But you can see that we get some artifacts, right? And this is what I spoke about, right? This is the intersecting mesh. Basically, this wall ran into this wall, the sphere ran into this, right? It's intersecting. That's because these settings are too high, right? You would think that just inflating the mesh by 1% is not much, right? But it is. It is. At least in my case, right? The whole building is maybe 20 meters high. I don't remember, and it will it will inflate it by a lot. Yeah. So let's go lower. Let's say like 0.1. The outwards, of course, they sort of shoot outward from the mesh. Inwards, they will shoot from the bounding box into the mesh. At least that's how I understand it. Again, I think these settings are way too high, right? So let's just cut them in half maybe, and let's try baking again. Yeah, so when you are baking, I actually did a feature request on this. This gets a bit tedious when you're testing, right? Because it already saved all the textures, and you have to replace them again, right? Repeat for, replace existing, boom. You can also choose to keep the original bake, but no need for now. Okay, so this is a bit better. We are no longer getting this overlap here. Everything looks pretty good, I guess. So that's a decent bake. Let me show you some of the artifacts that come from the bad mesh preparation, right? Like I don't know if I can. No, I can't. Okay, maybe on higher resolution it will show better. So here you can already see that there is a bit of a weird shade there. It shouldn't be there. Again, not noticeable at all. But if you have this on a surface like this, maybe you will definitely notice it. Not great. And also down here, the camera in InstaMAT is sometimes really weird. I'm trying to zoom in on this little thing here. Okay, so this is the one that I forgot to unwrap. Yeah, and it's just pure black, meaning there is something wrong with the bake, obviously. Again, I think it's a minor thing for this one. I don't really intend to zoom in on this. You would really have to look at this from a certain angle. I don't care, right? But you see, that's definitely from the UV. It's something you have to think about in advance. All right, so that's that. So that's the bake. Now, there are some other options that I would say are more on the artistic side. This may not be the best model to show it at, but for example here, right? I have this little, what should we call it? Grate. And I don't really want it to bake like this, right? So I can actually control how far the AO gets baked. Now this is of course a balancing act, because if I cut the race in half, let's say 12%, so that I don't get this distant ray over here, I will also lose a lot of other information that I may be interested in keeping, right? So that's always a bit of a trade-off. Okay, did we get anything different? Sometimes it doesn't update. Okay, so that didn't really change anything. I think the maybe the setting is still too high, right? Like we can maybe even go lower than that. Did it stop upgrading? So M will give you back your overall material, and C will cycle again. Yeah, I don't know. Not much has changed. Let's try to get it even lower. Yeah. I'm very happy with what the baker does, right? Like when you get rid of the artifacts, when you prepare your mesh correctly, you will get super nice results. Like very competitive with Painter, even better at times, I would say. I'm very happy with it, and it's super fast, like really fast. Yeah, this is of course just a 1K bake, but yeah, it's super good. Oh yeah. So this setting was still like acting out, but you see, like I lost a lot of the information that was here. The details here are sort of disappearing. It's not enough. It's just not enough. Like we have to accept maybe something like this, or like if I were really obsessive, I would go in and paint it out, you know, by hand. I don't think that's necessary. Again, this is just the basis. It's not going to be like that, right? Like it's not going to be your base color like this. It's just going to be a little bit of dirt here and there, or maybe it will like affect your cavity maps and stuff like that if you use AO for that. But it's fine, right? Like it's not a big deal. So we can actually go back to some reasonable settings, maybe like that. Bake again. Yeah, yeah. I can be happy with that for now. It's detailed enough. Now, as I said, like I don't mind this kind of grain in bakes. I think it actually gives it a bit of this like grungy look. And but it depends on you. And in fact, you can do a lot to adjust this, right? So first off, you can blur it. Yeah, this is oh sorry, not blur it. You can increase the sample count. Yeah, the higher the sample count, the longer the processing time, and it actually increases, I think, exponentially if I'm not mistaken. But 16 is good enough. I think in Substance you can go up to 64. Or even higher. I don't think it's necessary. I got really smooth, maybe even too smooth results with 32. So let's just put 32 here. And if you're like lazy and can't wait and it doesn't matter to you, you can also blur it. I encountered a bug here, a crash, when I increased the blur kernel to the maximum. It just straight up crashed InstaMAT. But if you use something else, I had no problem with that, and it's already been reported, so I imagine it's gonna get fixed if indeed there is a bug. Uh, so we could blur it, right? But we don't need to. So let me just do a quick bake again with increased settings. You'll see that it smoothens out quite a bit. It's just really tedious clicking that button over and over again. I don't know if it shows on stream, right? But it did remove some of that grain. It's better. There is the limitation with 1K bake. Of course, you will get this sort of map on that every time. If I did a 4K bake, this would be perfectly smooth. Trust me. Yeah. Okay. Other settings. The intensity, that should be obvious, right? If you lower this, you will have less of AO. Surface offset. I'm not quite sure what it does. I experimented with it. I think if you increase this, it's going to sort of increase the base surface. So if I increase this by a lot, let's say 50, right? You should see like a black border here, and this will be where the baker sort of identifies the surface, right? So if I let me just this. If I do it again, you should see like a black border here. Oh, okay. So that was way too much, and now it doesn't catch anything because the the surface is like way off, right? Uh, I hardly ever do anything with this. It's almost always good enough, right? Now, cone angle, essentially, it sort of the rays are shot not just directly, but it has a spread, and you can define the spread. This is in radians, if I'm not mistaken. So if you do 1, it's going to be 180 degrees, basically shooting in all directions in front of you. I For my purposes, I usually leave it be at 0.25, or we can do a bit higher, maybe 33, 35, depends, right? Like if you see some, let's say some minor details, like some bevels not catching the AO or something like that, you know, bevels that may be a bit slanted, maybe at like, I don't know, 70, like there's some bias to the bevel, if that makes sense, right? You can increase this and it's going to be likely to catch that. Yeah, but again, for this bake, it's fine. So let me just rebake that. Okay, now to attenuate by distance, basically it means that there is a fall off to the AO, and by default it's linear. The fact that it attenuates by distance means that it's going to have a gradient. That is all. I would always leave that on. I don't see why you would leave that off. Don't know. Random deviation introduces some a bit of like introduces some randomness into the bake. It says that if you leave this on, it will create more noisy appearance, which I like. Yeah, you can turn it off. It will be more homogeneous and less noisy. Again, I like noise. I'm weird. I like noise. So that's that. Now, submesh filtering. In our case, it doesn't do anything because we don't have high and low. But if you did, it will try to shoot the rays again by name, right? The target and the source will be filtered by name, and it will sort the rays according to that. It can eliminate some artifacts or create some artifacts. In my spaceship render, it definitely created more artifacts than or a spaceship bake, more artifacts than it solved, so leave it off. Now, fall off square. We already spoke about the linear fall off. This will make it exponential, or like square to the power of 2, right? Basically, the further the ray goes, it will decrease its intensity by power of 2, just like it does in real world, right? But again, I would say this is an artistic choice because it will give you a lot less AO and a lot smoother AO. Maybe I can just turn it on and bake. Of course, by the way, if you have anything to add, change, you know, just have me know. Let me know. I don't know if this is too basic for you or interesting in any way. Okay, I think it stopped updating again. Sometimes it does that, like you overwrite the stuff. In which case, sometimes it helps to go here, right-click on your package and say regenerate preview. Right? It's gonna try to update everything, but it doesn't seem to have done anything. Sometimes I'm really confused because sometimes I click on like fall off square and it just creates all sorts of changes in your bake, and right now it didn't really do much. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't see any noticeable difference. Do you? Weird. Weird. Maybe let's like ramp this up again, bake, and see what it does when the rays are actually longer, because we need like quite a bit of distance for this to take effect, right? The further the ray goes, the more pronounced that fall off will be. Oh, you think it's interesting, Dan? Okay, I'm glad. No, it just doesn't do anything, eh? I don't know. That's weird. Just InstaMAT thing sometimes? Or maybe I'm missing something. Yeah, but it changed, right? It changed. So it's not that there is nothing happening, it's just it doesn't have the effect we want. Maybe you look at another part. Oh, there's another mistake. Did you notice? Shite. Wow. Okay, I guess I'll fix that later. Again, it doesn't really matter. It's such a small detail. It's supposed to be occluded anyway, but this is not a natural AO bake. This is an artifact. When you use the AO node in the element graph and set it to square, you can see how it affects the output. Might be interesting to take a look on the same input. No, it's supported on GPU. It's definitely working, but not on this mesh. Apparently, you know, it's always a bit of an alchemy. Oh, you can see it now. Here, look. If I didn't use it, it would go much further here. I think I can show you now. Yes? No? 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 Okay. I don't know. Sorry about that. That happens, and like it happens to me surprisingly often in InstaMAT that like I click something and it doesn't do anything, and I don't know if it's like me or the software or something, some concept I don't understand. It's just part of the learning experience, I suppose. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, like unnamed player. I think your like InstaMAT is pretty optimized when it comes to the UI. If it's there, it usually works. You know, so I wouldn't. I don't think it's just the GPU baker, but I might be wrong about that. I guess I'll experiment with it some more, and if it doesn't work, I'll just report it to the developers. They have been extremely patient and extremely helpful in everything, basically. So I can definitely recommend just going, to the Discord and asking questions and ask and you shall receive. That's how it works in on the Discord server. Anyhow, let's make this a bit more sane again. Bake. Dan, what did you mean by the same input? So when you use the AO node in the element graph, okay, and set it to square, you can see how it affects the output. Might be interesting to take a look on the same input. So you mean I should create like okay, we can actually do that real quick because this is not the only way to bake meshes, right? In InstaMAT. We can also create a new project. This time it's going to be the element graph. We are going to create one without template and set it up ourselves. So I can close the baker for now. And there is a mesh bake node. Yeah. Which does pretty much everything that the other dialog does, right? You have all the same settings. Everything is the same. You can choose your maps. You can choose your meshes and all of that, right? The only thing is that you need to input the source mesh in this case. Now, if you go, you could just try appellant noise, AO, and then change the mode. Then you can see, yeah, definitely. Yeah, we are going to do that. So now, this is something I wanted to talk about and completely got lost in my explanation of the baker. I wanted to do that before the baking, but this is the sort of the project and library management and all sorts of stuff like that. So the package is like your overall, what's it called? The top level folder. Yeah, but then I'm gonna do it. It makes sense. I'm gonna do it just in a second, right? So here we have the package. The package is like the whole container that holds all the projects, all the images. You can upload your fonts, your typefaces, your vectors, your alphas, your meshes. I don't know, pretty much everything that comes to mind when creating graphics and handling geometry is possible in InstaMAT, which is really amazing. People like there were some people complaining about crashes. I had zero crashes on that. Zero crashes. You can drag in typefaces. It doesn't do anything. It just saves it into the package. You can drag in images. I guess if you drag a lot of them, there might be some lag because if you drag in, let's say, 1 GB worth of textures, it will lag. Yeah. But that's it, right? Like it's really good. So yeah, here we have the meshes that were stored into our package when we said, save the information into the package. So we can just take it and drag it in into the canvas, and now we have this information. You can see that it has, a couple of 100,000 um, polygons, which is fine. We're just gonna plug it into the source mesh, and we do want what? We want AO, boom, right? And we should set this as what's it called? AO, boom, right? So this is going to be our output. Yep. Why isn't it showing anything? Yeah, because what it should be? Why isn't it doing the thing? Do I need to like execute it? Or does it only... Okay, I'm a bit lost right now. Maybe Dan can help. You don't need that. I need this per sample. Can do take one, even less maybe. Recalculate inches. That's not interesting. I don't know. Let's just use this then. No? Do I have to save it? I don't know what's happening. That's another one of those moments where I just don't know why something isn't working and it drives me mad. Yep. Okay. Not helpful. But I did it before. I've definitely done it before and it worked. So yeah, like I'm trying to do the mesh bake, right? The ambient occlusion, and it's just not executing anything. Does it have to have target mesh here? Maybe. Maybe we just do the... Oh, I did the source mesh and it's supposed to be the target mesh. I think that's the problem. Right? Refresh. Refresh. No. Oh, there we go. Okay, finally. Right. So yeah, this is the AO we had. Basically, it just shows one UV tile, but I was assured yesterday by Voidberg that it should read the UDIM. Yeah, I switched the source and the target mesh. Then yeah, that was my mistake. Now, do we have the fall off here? The set for that? The setting for that? No. So maybe we should go for ambient. Is the height to ambient occlusion? AO? No. Dan, can you tell me what the node is called that you wanted me to use? Because I don't get this. There is no setting for the fall off here. Maybe we can... No. Square. Not square. No, it's not there. Ah, see, that's where my knowledge of InstaMAT pretty much runs into a wall. You meant height to AO. So I'm supposed to take the what? Just the mesh? Okay, maybe you bake like a displacement map. Height to AO. Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, yeah. Fine. Berlin. Yep. Okay. Just here. Height to AO, and then there should be the square. Boom. Yeah, you basically get whiter AO. Maybe we can make it more contrasty. And it's gonna recalculate. Yeah, I get it now. Then I didn't understand. Uh, yeah, so basically your different fall-offs, right? It should be pretty self-explanatory. Linear 0 to 1 means there is a straight line between the two. Square, there is a, what's it called, a hyperbole. Then we have some other ones. Sigmoid, I don't remember what the curve looks like, but we can try it. Basically, it will give you a smoother result and a much more sort of, it will look a bit more clamped, if that makes sense, or maybe that's not the right word. Either way, I don't know if it's that useful for most situations. It might be more useful for let's say organic shapes, characters and stuff, for maybe for skin, stuff like that. Um, Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. Um, that's how it is, huh? How I wanted to quit. All right, so we have this. Uh, yeah. So that's the thing. By the way, the shortcut was Control B. I actually sort of changed the hotkeys quite a bit, so I don't remember what the defaults are. But I think Control B is the baker. Either way, it's going to be where is it? Here? Yeah, here. This is the icon. Control B. Right. That's the AO, right? And from here on, it's really simple. You can just turn on the curvature. It has one setting, point half, you know, 0.5. I think that's the normal setting for curvature. Uh, One issue is we can't really preview it right now, right away. To preview your curvature, you have to bake it, and then you have to create a layer and assign color to it. Or just create some sort of operator, some generator that uses it, and it will show it to you. Maybe we can do that. So we are going to bake curvature. We definitely want to bake mesh ID. Mesh ID will give you essentially assign a vertex color to every mesh island. Yeah, it's very useful because then you can use it to mask different parts of your mesh. Yeah, it's like it will work like the polygon tool, for example, in Substance. You get a bit less control here than in Substance. In Substance, you can choose like different parts of the mesh. You can choose individual triangles. You can choose the islands. You can choose polygons that are sort of separated but part of the same island. We don't have that option here, but to be honest, like mesh IDs, or you really need. Um, yeah, that's it. We want some normal information. This will initially this won't show much. It will just be a violet uniform color, basically your neutral normal information. But it's important to have this for different generators. Um, if you had high poly, you would definitely want to bake the tangent normals from the high poly onto the low poly. Again, this is very sensitive, even more than the AO. It's prone to artifacting. You definitely want to handle your meshes well for this. Um, Now, I know I don't need opacity for this one. Position is another useful one. Basically, it will give you a gradient, just like in Substance. It will give you a gradient, like three-way gradient, three world axes. It will then serve to isolate different parts of your mesh. So for example, if you wanted to get some snow maybe on top of your tower or something, you could do that with the position mask, or a mask based on position. And I think that's it. As you see, we have more of those. You can definitely get thickness, which is useful for organic shapes. The devs told me that there isn't really a generator for this yet, so you would have to get a bit creative with it, but it's fine. I think transfer is your transmission, your glass, your you know, dielectric transparent materials. Vertex colors, you can of course set up vertex colors in Blender, for example, or you can even assign them in the element graph, and this will just bake it onto the mesh. Very useful. Opacity, there is something going on with the preview. I haven't used it yet, so I don't want to speak to it, but people say that their whole mesh disappears. I think that they are already addressing it. And yeah, the displacement, I don't need to bake this right now, even though we are going to be painting some displacement. I don't need to bake this right now. I can bake it later or just export whatever there will be. I don't intend to have any tessellation in Blender, right? Like I'm going to bake everything into normals, and that's what InstaMAT does automatically, right? Like even though you increase some height on your material, it will bake into, or it will interpret it as a normal information, as normal info. Yeah, that's it. Barycentric, I have no idea what it does. It's some kind of different gradient based on the barycenter of the mesh. So I imagine it would be somewhere around here at the top because that's where there is the biggest accumulation of mass. But fun, interesting. Bent normals. This is for game engine. Basically, a map that combines the AO and the normal map together. So for Unreal Engine, you probably want that, but for Blender, you don't care. Yeah, I think that's it. I hope I didn't miss any. Again, I'm going to take a break. I've been speaking for almost an hour and a half, right? And we still haven't done any art. It was just a lot of info. Hopefully it is going to be useful for anyone later on. So I'm just going to bake it maybe at 2K, and yeah. It all looks good, and bake. So yeah, I actually I have some notes here on the left of me, and I think I covered just about half of what I wanted to cover. I was afraid that I wouldn't have enough content, but apparently I speak too much, or say too much. I guess I would like to cover a bit of the sort of workflow pipeline slash UI that can get confusing, and maybe next stream I can actually get to texturing. Okay, now it's saving all the maps. And that's it. That should be our bake. That's 2K. Of course, I would work at, for the Udemy project, I think it's smart to work in 1K. If you have 10 maps, 10, 10 tiles, each has maybe 7 different channels, right? Like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 plus base color, plus roughness and all that. It gets really big real fast. Yeah. So if you want to get some decent performance from your like real-time performance from your painting, you should keep it low. You can always set the resolution here. So right now I have it at 2K. My GPU right now is about 1/3 full, or being utilized by 1/4 of its capacity. I'm losing my voice here, and yeah, that's already just the base. That's just the basic material, right? With some of the maps. I think it's just showing the the AO really, and you're already like really deep into the capacity, so you need to just work lower. That's just the way it is. You can always optimize it here. You can set some like upper limits for your hardware. I guess that's useful if you want to like have Blender on the side and work in that. Yeah, I think that's obvious. Okay. All right, so we baked our projects. Like I said, on the right side we will have our layering stack. You can optimize this. You can have these windows on the left or on the right. It's all good. I don't think it's that bad to have it on the right, but maybe if you're used to some sort of UI from, let's say, Substance or Marmoset, this will be useful to you. Now, these 4 buttons here, like the one on the left is the library. You can Google for anything. Let's say I want some REST material. It will get, the library is so rich. It has so much. You can definitely make do with that, and all of it is procedural, which means sometimes you will get these like materials that are obviously CG, but overall I think they look good. And if you just use some like custom grunges to cover it up a little bit, or sometimes you can just import some texture from, I don't know, Texture Labs or textures.com and just like add it to your material. It will break it up a little bit, and you can get like insane amount of variations, and the customization you get from InstaMAT is insane, right? So let's just take this rusted iron, for example. When I drag it over here, it will apply it to the whole model. But I could also just drag it onto a certain mesh, let's say my sphere, and it will just apply it to that. And it automatically created a mesh mask. And as you can see, there's this mesh render filter, and that will you can just turn it on and off on different parts of your mesh. So let's say there's and it even shows you like the bounding box or whatever it is, the wireframe, which is really cool. It helps a lot because I was really lazy in Blender, and I didn't name my my parts properly, and I can just turn it on, and here we go. And that's a very bad looking tower right now, but that's the general workflow, right? Like you just drag in something, or you create some material yourself, maybe in the element graph, and just apply it to whatever you want. A beautiful thing about this is that you can stack different masks, right? So let's say I only wanted maybe half of this sphere to have this really weird rusted iron material. Well, we can do that. We can add, here we can add different masks and generators. I actually have it set on my F2, F3, F4. So I can say F1. F1 will give me this menu. I can choose whether to add new layer, a new element layer. The difference between these two is a bit strange. Like it's not entirely clear cut what it is, but multi-channel layer will give you what you know from Substance, right? It will give you the basic channels you have activated in here, right? And you can adjust them yourself. So for example, we can change the base color to something beautiful and pink. We can displace it a little bit. We won't really see it right now, but we can change the roughness, make it shinier, right? Now you can see my HDRI in the background. We can make it metallic. Ooh, right, beautiful, beautiful. And we can also say how much of AO it's going to use. So we can either do that, or you can change the opacity. So if I turn it to 0, there won't be any of that channel applied, right? So right now I'm taking the base color and the ambient occlusion from the layer below, and we are only changing the roughness. Yep. So should be that's like your sliders in Substance Painter. Yeah, we can actually, as I said, we can use the masks and we can combine them. So let's just add a mask. Where is it? Generator, right? I never know which one is which yet. At mask F2. Yeah. So we need to. Unfortunately, F2 is also the one that changes the names, so I think I have to change it. Now we have a lot of masks here, and there are actually more if you open the library. For now, I'm just gonna use a volume mask, which is a bit of a manual mask to use, but I like it. Now you get the gizmo here, and it will mask the material based on the bounding box. What's inside will get shown, what's outside will not get shown. It's very easy. Now the controls are just like in Maya or industry standard. It's the Q, W, E, R. Q for position, W for what's it called? Oh, we don't have W here. Of course, we don't have W here. E for rotation, R for scale. So I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to take that, and we just have the mask here on the sphere where we wanted it, I guess, I suppose. So it's still an ugly tower with an ugly material right now, but it's masked, and that's what we wanted. And so, even though we don't have anchor points or reference points, as the devs call it, we still can pretty much do what we need to texture. You know, it feels a bit old school in a way, like before Substance had all these like anchor points and stuff. You had to do things manually and in a creative way, but I actually like that. It's like the anchor points. It's a lot of setup, and it can create some amazing effects, but it hurts my hand sometimes. And sometimes it's just the easy way to do it is the best, right? I don't know about you, but I don't really miss them yet. All right, so that's that. Now, so that's the library essentially. You can do a lot of stuff here. You can change how it's shown. It will show you the categories, all of that. You can definitely see all sorts of stuff there. I wish there was a bit more of maybe that we could filter it a bit better instead of just a simple search button. Because, for example, obviously in layering, you're very unlikely to use, or you can't even use these element expressions or the stuff for atom, the functions and all that. Like that's something you can't even apply to your masks or anything, as far as I know. So maybe if that got removed when you're in a layering project, but at the same time, it's the library. There's everything, right? But control flow is only for atoms, right? So why have it here? It's just a minor thing. I don't care that much, but it's there. Yeah. So here also it's a bit strange, right? Like we have the category material, and then we have the materials. Materials as in the finished library, but in material you also get some material utilities and all that, and it's confusing. Some of the naming is a bit strange, but again, I don't really care. Now, that's that, right? Now, the package management, as I said a couple of times already. Again, everything gets saved here. So let's say I wanted to add some text like I did before. So it's very simple. Let's just open our little font thing. Maybe I can just do it through here. Fonts. Yeah, this is the Windows thingy. And you can just really I think I used for my title, I used this one from Pangram, which is an amazing foundry. It's called Agrandier, I think. Yeah, Agrandier. And you can just take it and drag it in. Yeah. And it's created a new smart folder called fonts. And now we can add maybe a text. Now, a text is an element. It's not a brush, or it's not your multi-channel layer. It's an element. So for that, we need to create an element layer, for example, right? You don't see any text, but that's no problem because we can just type in text and it should show. Oh, here, yeah. So it's in, for some reason, text is in patterns. Don't ask me why, but that's just how it is. And we can add text. Now, a text will usually be a decal, I suppose, right? Now, this black side of the square is the direction in which the decal is projected, right? So let me just get it in somewhere. Let's set it up a little bit. Maybe the color can be, can be like, I don't know, my little favorite red, a little bit orange. That's right. Okay. And yeah, and element layer. So element layer usually has these channels, of course, and different masks. we can actually set this up in the element graph. Guess I'll not get to it today because we are running out of time. But you can definitely create some complex effects using that and activate different channels here. You just have to set up the outputs for it in the element graph. I guess I'll get to it next time. I didn't think it would take me this long to get into this. So okay, let's just scale this down. Let's just get it here. And why isn't it projecting? What am I missing? Text, text, text. Hello, InstaMAT. Yeah, should be there. Size? No. No? Why isn't it working? Rotation. Weird. You see that bothers me. This bothers me. Okay, let's try to, I don't know, get UV. Does it do anything now? Triplanar. I did not link the base color input. Ah, yeah, I talk about it and then I don't do it, right? Yes, so right now we have a triplanar, I think, but we can do the decal, right? And that's it. Let's just scale it down. Let's just move it in. It's a bit distorted, but it's fine. That's basically how we do decals and texts and stuff like that. So now that I have the fonts here, I can just change it. Unfortunately, with fonts, you can't really just drag it in. It will try to instantiate whatever that means, and it's going to be a problem. So you have to change it here. You can select your package here, current package, and it will show you all the things you sort of loaded into the package. Yeah, you can also use that, right? It's the Q, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or whatever the shortcut is. Yeah, Q, and you can just choose where to project it, which is also an awesome feature. Yeah, you can just quickly align it to whatever you need, and then just tweak it a little bit with your transformation tools. Yeah, thank you for that. That's right, and it's an awesome feature. I would I wish the camera behaved a little better, so that even projecting and all that was simpler. But this is one of the amazing quality of life features for InstaMAT painting, right? Really cool. Anyhow, yeah, the fonts, right? So let's choose a Grandier. I think I used the slanted one, which I don't have right now. So let's use something else, and it's going to change it. And that's it, right? Now we have Inst. We can tweak the size. Yeah, that looks good. I had a bit of a problem with kerning. Kerning as in the spacing between the letters. For example, this T always seems to be a bit off, and this is not what the font does, right? This is some InstaMAT interpretation of the kerning from the font file. If you open this font in Photoshop, it doesn't do that. So this T is a bit strange. Unfortunately, right now there is no way to fix that. I guess you could create two different decals, one with the T separate T, and just move it in. But that's just OCD kind of level of polish. But it's InstaMAT T, InstaMAT, right? Minor thing, don't care. All right. So that's how you import all sorts of stuff. Again, I could even bring in some PBR textures, right, and just use them in the channels, create a new layer, apply masks to it. The possibilities are quite endless, and it's much quicker than in Painter, for example. If you remember the import dialog in Painter, you have to assign the type of asset you're importing. You have to say, is that a texture, or is that a mesh, or is that I don't know, an HDRI? I don't even remember if that's possible. And you have to like create your own categories, and then you have to look for them in the library. Like, it can get really tedious. This is much more polished, much more fluent workflow, I would say. I love it. That's You can see that the software was created with this like speed uh, in mind, and even though it's not like on par with features in, let's say, in Painter, it has other features that I find extremely useful and um, extremely useful, basically, extremely thoughtful, almost, of the of the developers, of the artists by the developers. Anyway, that's it. Now, let's say I wanted to, um, let's say I created an asset. Let me actually open my other package, which is this one. Do we save this? Oh, yeah, we save this. All right, so this is what I did in preparation for the stream. It's the same model. It's been baked. It's been baked in 4K actually, so we are probably going to run out of memory. I'll have to work in 1K now. You see like how fast it eats up the memory. Yep, we're out. Okay, let's just do 1K. It will now sort of transform the textures into something lower res, which is nice, and it's extremely fast again. All right, there we go. So that's our little mesh here, all baked. Yeah, this is the mesh ID map. Very nice, right? Like you can now choose different parts of the mesh as you like. Yeah, that's it. Let's go back. Now, I created an alpha stamp, right? It's very simple. It's just some SDF shapes, blurred, blended together. It's just a little door. If I open it, this is what it looks like, with all the masks and all that. It's just a little door. This took me. I'm not that great in like node material creation yet, or great at. Believe it or not, I'm an English teacher, but I'm so nervous right now that speaking correctly is actually quite a bit of a challenge. Anyhow, back to the matter at hand. We created this alpha, right? We set up some outputs here, right? Like the mask, the height, the normal, and you have to name this correctly. You definitely have to name this correctly because InstaMAT's sort of semantic analysis will remember that, right? And this category right here really matters because if you choose something that InstaMAT recognizes, and it will try to filter it out for your different layers. So for example, what I mean by that, if we go back to our layering project, and let's say I wanted to create a new multi-channel brush, right? So F1, multi-channel brush, and you have all sorts of settings here, right? Here you can choose what kind of resource you want to use. You can use just a simple fill color. It's going to paint blue, right? InstaMAT blue. You can adjust your luminance, your contrast. You can add vignette, which is useful when you use an actual texture. You can change the softness and all that. It's self-explanatory. You can tell it which channels to use. So for example, I don't want it to affect roughness, so we just turn it off. I don't want it to affect metalness, so we just turn it off, right? Now here, that's the catch, that's the gotcha, right? Let's say I click on the default brush. By the way, this always lags for me. There is some problem here. Every time I click on that, it tries so hard to I'd probably look into the library, but there isn't that much to begin with, right? And when I created it the first time, my brush, I didn't specify these categories right here, this paintbrush mask, right? Uh, and it wouldn't show, and it wouldn't show anywhere, right? Even when I used the element brush, it just didn't show. It just sort of filtered it out, which is what I wanted for the atom expressions and all that in layering. But right now in this library, I kind of want to have access to pretty much everything I can use. And if you use the categories wrong, if you specify the categories somehow in a way that it confuses it, it will not show. Right? So if you fix that, you should have it here. Yeah, right now it's not there. I think I created it, called it something else. I don't remember now. Da 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 da. Favorites? No. What did I call it? Is it door? Search everywhere. Yeah, see? Actually, even though I specified the mask, because I didn't assign the proper category to it, it doesn't show. And it's confusing to me because I don't have any way of knowing which category to assign. Yeah, or what the conventions are. I don't think I tried looking for it in the documentation. It really wasn't there, or maybe I missed it. But this is confusing, and it took me maybe an hour to figure it out. And I just kept trying different categories and trying whether it works in element brush or element layer or like normal multi-channel layer, and it was just infuriating, quite honestly. But I figured it out, and I created somewhere here my little normal stamp. Yeah, the door has been applied. You can then use it as a brush, right? I created an element brush layer. I loaded my door stamp, and I input all the correct channels here, right? So the base color should probably not be used actually. All of this is off, off, off. That's correct. Yeah, we have the normal. We have the height. Yeah. And now we can just paint. Oh, I have the eraser on. Yeah, we can just keep adding little doors to our tower. So that's awesome. You can create your. I have a whole library of like sci-fi stamps, panels, stuff like that that I had been working on for a couple of months. I think I'm going to release it in the fall. I don't know, I'm gonna sell it for $1 or something. It's about 50 or 60 of those different stamps. I'll just have to organize this a little better. And yeah, that's gonna be like a package for InstaMAT, I suppose, that people will be able to download for very cheap and use in their own projects. So that's something you can do in InstaMAT very comfortably, I have to say. Very comfortably, if you figure out the semantics. So that's one thing. Yeah. So I had the door stamp here. We set up the outputs. We named them, and that's it. That's really it. Okay. Any questions? Anything? I think I'm getting tired. I wanted to show you much more, but I guess I'll have to split it into different streams. Maybe if you could tell me like how you use InstaMAT, Mr. Player, that would be interesting. What you do with that? Whether there's something you would like me maybe to show you if I know it, or Dan, if you'd like to correct me or answer some of my complaints, maybe. I'd be grateful. And thank you for coming, everyone. Well, I'm not sure about that. Like, I'm very used to public speaking, but I was surprisingly nervous coming in. I have to tell you, like, haven't been this, you know, haven't been this nervous in a while. I guess it's because this is really my first time showing myself as a 3D artist, Thank you. Oh yeah, I love 3D. 3D is a it's a challenge for me. I haven't studied it or anything. In fact, I come from a very different profession, and just becoming a 3D artist, trying to, change the career has me going and coming and going, in fact. And yeah, I just love it, and I love InstaMAT. I think it has huge potential. Um, some of the things I mentioned or that confuse me sometimes, it's not like obvious to me how I messed up, or what should be fixed, or where the problem lies. But I imagine that's because I'm not that experienced with the software yet. I think the the amount of like customization and the combination of the tools, the various tools you have, like gives to a very complex workflow potentially, especially when someone knows what they want. Like when someone knows what they want, right? Like when they know that they need to create this and that material, they know how to go about it in the element graph, and they know that they will be using it for X and Y model, and they can really combine all sorts of things together: the AI tools, the procedure creation tools, the layering tools. Um, it's pretty cool. You can do so much, and like Painter seems to me a bit more user friendly, a bit more polished still, but it's also the difference that we have hundreds or even thousands of hours of videos on YouTube, right? And it's been around for a while, and it's like so to speak industry standard, whatever that means. And so the people the general knowledge available is much I don't know what to say, much more available, I suppose. Uh, which isn't the case for InstaMat. That was sort of my motivation for streaming, or to stream, because there really isn't much out there. Like what Dan does is amazing. I love it. It's very concise, very articulate, but it's the basics, and I would like to see a bit more of a like this is how I use InstaMat kind of video, where people actually make something that's maybe comparable to what people can do in Painter, right? Because what comes out of InstaMat material-wise, like canvas creation wise, is, in my humble opinion, much better than what comes out of Designer. I think the competition has been won for now, and that's great. But unfortunately, I would like to be painting, not just procedurally creating materials. And the Painter is a bit funky at times, but still very powerful, very very lovely. That's my conclusion. I guess I can stream. I'm not sure when. Maybe sometimes during the week. I could actually start texturing this. I have 4 models like this plus the spaceship, so there is plenty to texture. I still haven't decided what I'm going for, whether I want to go for like a more um, I don't know, damaged, aged look, or like a new plasticky kind of look like the models. Maybe I'll vary it a little bit from model to model. The spaceship will be the biggest challenge because that's actually the high poly to low poly. Um, yeah, then I'll just release a tutorial on brushes, right? I was actually going to show the brush creation, but since Dan created this amazing tutorial, I decided to forego that. So yeah. That also took me like a couple of hours to figure out. And when I figured it out, Dan finally released this tutorial. That's just how it is, right? So yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up for now. It's been 2 hours almost. Thank you very much for coming, for chatting with me. Suggestions are always welcome. And I'll try to stream maybe on Wednesday, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think people are coming in, like, I think the numbers of, like, the number of people just wanting to texture their assets for free, in fact, yeah, with the community license, is going to be much higher than people who are actually into procedural material creation, right? Like, how many people do you know that actually do work in designer and are willing to switch, right? But people are always looking for painter alternatives. You don't have to apologize, Diana. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Player. Yeah, I'll let you know. I have, of course, some real life, so to speak, stuff during the week, but if time permits, I should probably do a bit more of this so that I can get used to it. Maybe have a channel dedicated to Blender and InstaMAT at some point. It's not my top priority right now, but I always like sharing and teaching, so I think I'll get into it some more. So thank you very much. I'm pressing the stop button right now, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.